let's start the meeting.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about that.
6:30, just
Oh,
read it over.
6:30.
Yeah.
We have enough
The
here?
board members. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yes.
All
We
right,
only need
cool.
5.
Okay.
I know.
We welcome Susan.
Welcome. Thank you.
After this raucous celebration, let's move right along.
Well, I'm assuming Ted forgot. Well, we may invite him again sometime. All right, so do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
I move we approve those.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Well, I don't really have any remarks, except to thank everybody who was helped out at the Drum Point Day. I think we had a pretty good showing. Bruce was thanking everybody and said he thought there were around 150 people. I didn't think there were that many.
Well,
What I
they
told
were
him
handing
is
out
if
those
they were
wristbands.
counting just the wristbands, you gotta count 2 or 3 per teenage boy. There was some familiar coming.
No, but I think he was just counting people, you're counting appetites.
I'm counting food,
Yeah.
planning for food, because
Oh, food,
there
yeah.
were some very familiar faces that kept coming.
I don't know what his
God
count was.
bless them, God bless them, they're growing boys, but.
But it was still a good turnout.
Yeah,
There
it was good.
there were people parked
We had-
all over the place.
We had good, I missed the barbecue though, like, where's the
Oh, yeah.
No, you mean, yeah. But we had wonderful hamburgers, and we had hot dogs, and
We're taking a quick run down that.
coleslaw was great.
Yeah.
Potato salad was great, it almost came out.
Yeah, potato salad was delicious.
That came from next.
Yeah.
Did it?
So I think Maria said they came from Mexico.
from next, yeah. The coleslaw was actually a combination of mix and giant.
Oh,
Because Saturday when I came in, I stopped to get veggie burgers and I thought, I need a little more coleslaw and it still wasn't enough.
well, it was, you know,
It was close, but not quite.
because we opened 10 minutes early, for food.
True.
Yeah.
But people kept saying, people at the end kept directly in after 5, and said, oh, we thought it was gonna start at 5, so I don't know how we get the word out better.
Well, I don't think we do. People have to read what you send them.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
right.
That's true,
you know.
and if they run out of food and it's after 5, oh well.
And they had the sign out there, but I didn't really pay attention to
Well,
what it
yeah, I
said.
don't know, but I know the club sent out
Mhm.
their own
They,
email.
yeah, they,
And it was in the newsletter.
Yeah, yeah.
I watched, I'll look at the newsletter and it was so fun. You know, I don't know.
okay. Well, we were supposed to have a guest presentation, but he's not here. This was gonna be, Ted Haney, talk about the Friends of Mill Creek, that they've been, partnered up with the Chestnut Land Trust.
Yeah.
So he was gonna come and tell us what that's about, but he apparently forgot. Okay. Next order is elect new officers.
Well, okay. Yeah, no, right now, with this beach thing going on the way it is, and as deeply entrenched in it as you are, I think it would be foolish to change horses in the middle of that stream. And then Jack has taken a long time to get a good grip on this treasury stuff, and unless he really feels some revulsion and wants to walk away from it, I think you should stay in that job. Bonnie is secretary, that's up to her.
I'm willing
And
to.
anybody wants to be vice president,
I said, I'm willing to stay
welcome
on
to
as
it, I don't
secretary,
care.
but
I
I'm
can
willing to
continue doing
hand
it,
it over
or
to
I can
somebody.
not continue
Yeah.
doing it, it doesn't matter.
I think
I've
the
said there's my campaign.
secretary job is the easiest one, because Rhea does it all, basically. But we have to have a secretary, so.
All right.
Finance requirement.
So are you volunteering to run for vice president?
Yeah, I will, you know, hey, as opposed to, what was that famous saying, you know, if nominated, I will not run, if elected, I will demand a recount.
Yeah.
You know,
Is that,
hey, I'll run, yeah, you know.
Let's see, I think I can only have one more year, right?
That's right. And I hope you finish the beach during this year.
Okay, well, I think a slate was suggested by Mr. Vice President.
It's voluntold. Does somebody want to make a motion to?
Well, you could have a motion
Any
for
discussion?
any one or all of them, or acclamation, or,
I make a motion that his slate, proposed slate, is accepted.
is there a second? Are there any discussion, anybody don't want to do what Tony suggested?
Seems like the path of least resistance.
Right. Okay.
Somehow, I don't think we
Yeah, we
can
can't
second
second
it,
it,
it's
no,
up
I
to you.
think it's really, yeah, it is. I'll say.
Right.
Well, that's right.
And then there's, I guess we all vote. Yeah, we're all,
Yeah.
Yeah, but, yeah,
Well,
we
So
need it.
we move.
yeah, we have to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's a vote, it's an electorate of two.
Right.
Right.
Then whoever didn't show up tonight, they'll be.
All in
sorry.
favor
That's
of,
right,
all in
got rid of us.
favor of the
They
slate
missed out all that discussion.
by acclamation, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I should have said they were opposed, just.
Well, I was opposed, but.
But you didn't say anything, and now it's
But
too
you rolled
late.
his eyes a lot.
Right. Okay. So you update us on the office, please?
I don't have a lot written down here. The membership ended up at 87% for the end of the year, which I think is pretty good. And that's by the amount of.
That's the biggest,
That's, yes, I think it is. And that's by the amount of.
That's a record, isn't it?
I think it
Yes,
is.
it is.
And why is that? Because you've been like,
I sent out those claim documents, which, you know, in the future will go with a letter explaining that it's not an actual, hadn't been filed yet, so. But by property ownership, we're at 83%, which is also very good. We always want to get to 80%. It's always higher by property owned because people like Jack own 2 properties and pay the fees sometimes.
So the 87 is based on covenant and MA or
The
receipt,
amount.
right?
Exactly, the amount received against the amount billed.
Right.
Do percentage. We already talked about Drum Point Day, and as Mike said, 150 or so attended, according to Bruce. And we were a little short here and there on food, not much, the coleslaw and the chips. So make a note of that for next year. And we have 2 or 3 packages of hot dogs left over in the freezer.
a lot of drinks.
The club buys those, we don't, I'm
There was
happily,
a
I don't know why they, but they'll use them.
apparently
Yeah.
they bought too many diet drinks, and I think Mary Ann said or somebody said that.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, but that's up to them, and I guess they use it throughout the year for other
Yeah.
things. And then, as some of us know, I don't know if we want to talk about this here, on Surf Street, there appears to be some construction going on of a wall.
It's hard to tell what it really is.
I know, it's like 3,
And then there are some
Did you see,
post holes.
everybody see the pictures
I
of?
didn't think to send
I
them.
didn't send them to everybody, but.
No,
Huh?
what's going
And,
on?
and there
I'll
are some
send them out
post
to
hole
everybody,
supports on
because
the
I
beach.
went
Yeah.
down. A concerned neighbor who wishes to remain anonymous because her husband said, just keep out of this.
But she,
She didn't, she saw me when I was walking the dog. Anyhow, she told me about it, and it's, the problem is if he's doing something illegal, that's, the county can nail him to that. But what he's doing is probably going to affect, is already affecting the footpath that goes to the footbridge, and that's our property, so we
so
got.
he's building something?
I think a gazebo, somebody said he wanted to build a gazebo, so.
He had applied for a permit through MDE, I guess, and DNR, for a permit to build a gazebo and I suppose a little bit of a retaining wall. But it has to go through, you know, all the hoops for MDE to get approved, and I would have thought we would have been notified as adjacent property owners. He must be going for a variance of some type. That lot, as we were talking about before we started, is, I don't know, 50% underwater?
I think it's more
It's
than that.
right on the bay.
I
It
just-
might be more than
I
that.
just looked at, it's more than that.
It's, plus, and I've explained to people when they've called to ask me about, hey, I'm looking at a lot down on Surf, because the man wanted 40,000 for it. in years past. He ended up selling it for 24 or 25,000. But I've always explained, and I explained to the man who bought it, that there is a right of way in there, you know, and 10 feet maybe on each side of whatever is left of that pavement is Drum Point right of way. So I'm not sure, but I contacted Robin Monikheisen at the county, and she's critical area officer, and she forwarded the pictures that I did get sent to others in zoning enforcement and permits and inspections, I guess. She couldn't find any evidence of an approval on the permit. So,
And the other thing along that footpath, when you get closer to Megan's house, there's a big, an area that's eroding, that's right behind that awful looking riprap, that's really just like a thumb highway that was.
Yeah, that may be our problem,
That may be our problem.
because I don't think there's enough land of his left if you look right away.
Oh, I see.
So we're not sure if
So
it's
close
his.
to our road that
Yeah,
it's.
we're not sure if
Yeah.
it's his or, but it's eroding.
Right, okay.
It's eroding
Yeah,
on the base
well, I
side
had-
of the walk.
Months ago, when he first got in touch with me and explained what he wanted to do and that he had applied for permits and so on, and he wanted us to do something about what he perceived as a problem with that drainage from under the footbridge. It's not really a creek, it's just drainage. He felt as though it was undermining his lot. So I contacted Robin at the time, and Robin said, yes, he's applied for permits, there's nothing you can do right now. If you can do something, we don't know, but there's nothing you can do right now until he has approval for what he's trying to do. And he had been asked to provide some additional material at the time.
Okay, well, so I think it's back in the county's
Yeah.
hands right
I
now.
think
They
So
have to say,
until they say yea or nay and tell us what he can and can't do, and then we can look and see if there's anything we have to do. Now, of course, the other issue is, does surf end, the usable part of surf, the drivable part, does that end before you get to his property? Or
Yes,
yeah,
Okay.
the other side.
it's
usable
on the one side of the drainage area, surf ends before the footbridge, and then on the other side, it ends in front of Min's house.
Right,
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
And so,
And it's a
I don't
footpath.
think any part in front of that property is really drivable.
right. No, it's not,
No.
that's why
Well,
the
so,
bollards.
but, the problem there is that he could, if the county approves it, and he gets approval for a building permit of some sort, then he can come to us and say, I want you to open a road to my property.
That's right. And the easiest way to do that, because building a bridge across that, whatever it is
Move
is
the
gonna
bollards.
be. Yeah, move the bollards and pave from in front of Min's, and that means come around the corner, it's gonna be the only way to
The
do
thing
it.
is that when you see it, there's an erosion area, I think it's gonna be very dicey.
Yeah,
Well,
but
that's-
that's a bridge to burn when we
That's
get
why
there.
they never
Yeah.
built that road.
Yeah, that's right.
That went out with 2003 Hurricane Isabel.
Mhm.
That was my understanding, I wasn't here yet, that's why it was never built. There's no way they felt they could get a permit for it. The other thing though with the county, before he should have been, if he was issued a permit, a building permit, we should have had an opportunity to stamp
Yes.
and get our road bond.
Right.
Even though it's not much of a road,
Nope.
it's still, doesn't say anything
Well-
about the deterioration of the road not being.
Do we
Well,
get a
that- I mean,
copy of
that-
the permits that are approved by the county? Really?
No.
So we just
Unless-
have to.
If there's an appeal for a variance, then, we would have access to it, it's all online, but no, we don't really get a copy of anything.
Well, we're supposed to be notified,
Supposed to be
though.
notified of a variance
And
here.
no, I thought we were supposed to be notified of a building permit so that we can assess
Oh,
whether
yes.
we need road bond or.
Yes, we are,
Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
so this is not the first time recently that we have not gotten notified, so.
Well, but he may not have a permit, so,
Yeah.
Right.
you're assuming he
Well,
has a
but
permit.
no, well, I know
Even if you
it may
apply-
not be approved yet, but to get applied,
Yeah. We could
We
be
don't even
interested
know
in-
what he applied for,
no, I know.
Right.
so.
I think Mike is saying that we should probably, it would be nice if we got notification of somebody
Well,
even applied.
what happens if, what should have happened, the MDE permit, I think, would have been first, according to Robin. And then, if that were to get approved, then you go to the county for your critical area permit through the county.
Mhm.
And then you go to inspections and permits, and they would tell you, you have to go to Drum Point to get a stamp, so they
Oh,
can
okay,
collect.
so when, yeah.
Yeah, and then, we look at it, under normal circumstances, we look to see what the driveway interface was going to be, and does there need to be a pipe, and so on and so forth. But, so I don't know, all I know is that he wasn't sent here for a road bond and a stamp.
Well,
So we have to wait and see.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
the next thing, the county's gotta do something.
Right.
And they should either approve it or put a stop work on it or something.
I can't imagine.
It's a weird thing, I mean, you could see 3 of the post things, but we couldn't see a 4th one.
Right.
Well, he's
For
already,
his- For his gazebo, I assume
Right.
that's the gazebo.
Right.
yeah, well, what I saw looked like, these metal
Yeah, there's no.
hangers that you put a 4x4 on.
That's exactly what.
Are they on a footer?
Don't know, because it's under the
Yeah,
sand.
because Tony and I
They're-
went down there, and because I found.
Because if
3
he
sets
put a
of
footer in there, he's already violated.
I think even banging those things into the sand, he's
What
violated.
about that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because he had to dig into the sand to put them in.
What about that wooden fence of
Oh,
of
that-
railroad
I-
ties that's going out there? I mean, that's-
I don't know.
I don't know, it's like landscaping, but
But,
who
but I
knows?
mean, it has to be anchored in something, right?
Boy, you think so.
Yeah. I don't
I mean,
know.
Normally, if you're gonna do something like that, you put rebar down
Yeah,
through the
yeah.
bottom layer
Yeah.
and anchor it into wherever you're putting it, and then you spike it in, you
This
know, as you
may,
build it up.
this may all be a non-issue, because the first storm, this may wipe them out.
Oh, yeah.
you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, that's,
Anyway,
but
okay,
anyway, yeah.
so over to the county.
Yeah, better go turn off my phone. Those are my kids. I can tell by the radio. So, under roads, Chris Franklin did contact me the other day and say that, so last week, and said that he would have a statement of work to me by the weekend, for the various, stormwater jobs and so on. Haven't got it yet, but I'll send him a reminder. Look here. And then also on Laurel Way, which is why I got confused about the 2 pipes. Laurel Way, the dry hydrant there does have a crack in it. You know, the group of guys that were at the meeting, membership meeting, they had the week before tried to flush all the dry hydrants. They do that every year or so to make sure that they're clear if they ever should need them. And Laurel Way appeared to have a problem, but they wanted to go back and double check it. And I had asked John Wood, C. Calvin Wood, or J. Calvin Wood, whatever, for an estimate on what it would cost, and he left me a message to say that he had spoken with Joe Ford, the fire department rep, and Joe said, yes, indeed, there is a problem there. So John Wood's gonna give me a price, and I asked Mike Toro from Grover's Landscape for a price.
So we're responsible for replacing
It's,
hydrants, right?
well, the dry hydrants were put in, I wanna say in 2007, 6, 7, 8 maybe, through a grant program that John Ray worked through. We didn't pay a dime for any of those 3. We paid to have the parking pads put in place, but that was it. So, but yeah, they're our responsibility.
What did we do before that? Just hope we didn't have a fire?
Well, it was just, you know, I don't know. You know, it was just, they brought their pumper trucks in with water in them, but this would give them more access, quicker access. And I know at the time, people were sort of complaining about it, but there was a man that came in who was, fire department, you know, like DC fire, so really pretty experienced. And I asked him about it, and he pointed out that house, which was quite new at the time, right here on Borrego. It's a nice house, nothing against it at all, but it was brand new, and he said, a house like that will go up like that, because of the material issue. There's nothing wrong with the construction, it's just the material. He said, we need every minute we can get. If we can spare 5 minutes, that can mean all the difference. So it was important to have. I had a call from a man near the Riverview Causeway, and this is a complaint that's happened in the past. People are fishing there. He said he doesn't have that much of a problem, except that, with the idea of them doing that, they don't have hang tags, but more than that, they're leaving their trash behind. They're parking along, as you come down Riverview, and if you were going to cross the causeway, they're parking all the way up and blocking a lot of the road And he's wondering if we couldn't have, I asked him about signs, and he said there's already a no parking sign there. You know, it doesn't do any good. But he wondered if we couldn't bring a couple more of those big rocks in, and as you come down onto the causeway, put however many it would take to keep people from pulling off and trying to park through there. And he mentioned the signs that we had placed along Riverview years ago now. As it worked, it was a deterrent to keep people from off-roading in the side of the road, which is what people were doing, and rutting it all up. And he said, so maybe, you know, some rocks, or maybe a couple more signs, whatever, to keep people from going off. So is that something I can get priced and see what that would cost?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you know, we've got to make sure those rocks are big enough so that a couple of guys don't get out of the pickup.
Well, I know,
Yeah.
yeah, they've got to be
Yeah, that's
pretty,
true.
Exactly.
yeah. I mean, we could do posts also,
Posts.
but those are also pretty movable if you want to
If I
really.
put a chain on my car.
And I asked him about putting a trash can down there, and he said, well, nobody will empty it. And I explained that, yeah, we do that, and people do empty them. He said, no, because all that will do is encourage it, which
That's
is true.
Right.
No.
So, all right,
Okay.
Yeah.
and that's all.
Money.
Well, the budget, you know, was approved, so
I
it's,
have to listen to another one of these, you just gave it.
It can be very brief.
and it will be. There's not much to add from last week's meeting, membership. And, but we do have the full year budget in, and we're pretty close to being exactly amounts that we budgeted. And overall, we're very good. Here and there, we've gone over a little bit, but in other places, we've really economized. So, the full year budget last year looks pretty good.
Can I just add something? You know, last week there was or last month, a question about the, having fixed assets on the balance sheet. Remember that discussion?
Yeah,
The boat ramp and so on
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so forth. And how do we do it, how do we show it? So I asked the auditor about that, and he replied that GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, requires that fixed assets to be recorded at actual cost, but then depreciated, and they do not adjust to market value. The balance sheet is not what shows the value of that. This is an accounting issue. This isn't what, like if we wanted to sell, let's say that property, it will depreciate over the years. Well, no, excuse me. He also said, land does not
It
depreciate.
doesn't
I
depreciate.
didn't,
It appreciates.
I forgot that.
Yeah.
So if we wanted to sell this office, I guess, this depreciated cost would not be what we would expect to get it for. That's just an accounting thing. He also said that the boat ramp technically would have depreciated completely by now. Because we didn't have it added on before, I just added that when we had a discussion a couple months ago. He said it would be depreciated to zero by
So
now.
there's no.
So maybe there's no point at all in showing it, and I'll talk to him about that when he
Well,
comes in for the audit.
Well,
But except if you had to replace it or repair it, I mean, it has some value.
Oh, it has value, but this is not what shows that
Okay,
value.
okay.
This is for accounting
I'm trying to
purposes.
make sense.
And what about repairs? I mean, we had to repair the boat ramp. Do you set the clock back?
I don't know, that's a good question, because it was repaired, replaced in 2007 or 8, when I first got here. So it's been that
So
many
this
years
was a-
again. Oh, we did have the 2600 in repairs,
Right.
you're right. I don't know, that's a good question.
When is our audit coming up?
Let me write this down. Well, it has to be presented at the September meeting, but the bylaws require that. So I've contacted Mark Perry from the accounting firm, and he has it on his list. He hasn't given me a schedule. I don't know if we'll do it online this year, because we've done that the past couple of years, or if he'll come. Online is almost more arduous. I can't tell you how many documents I scanned and sent to him. Where if he comes, I hand him the book and he flips through it, and oh yeah, there's the statement.
Yeah.
Whereas, so I'm kind of hoping
I think it was just
he'll
COVID.
come. It was COVID, the first year for sure,
So maybe
and then
suggest,
last year we did it again.
so maybe ask him if he would mind.
Yeah, yeah,
Rather than letting him suggest.
exactly. So that was all I wanted to.
Yeah, just, I run your questions by him as far as the assets and see where we're at. But you're right, I mean, you don't depreciate land, or you do
Yeah.
depreciate, buildings and structures and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
I'll ask him if the repairs to the ramp somehow figures in to the depreciation or anything at all.
Yeah, because as you repair, you repair buildings, you don't increase their value. Now, there's another question that would be if I add on to it and I refinance it, and then re-baseline the whole thing, that may,
That might do something.
that might change it, but,
Right, right, that makes sense.
Also, I'd like to ask about the beach property, if we spend a fair amount,
Right, how does
Yeah.
that, oh yeah, that's,
do we add that, or does that
Oh,
not count? I'm not sure.
oh, it has to be.
No, I don't know, again, that's gonna be tricky, because one, you gotta realize we're doing it on somebody else's property. It belongs to Maryland,
yeah.
it's gonna be in the water,
true.
Right.
it's not ours.
Mm.
I mean, I'm just pointing it out.
It's our money, but
Yeah.
then
It's our money, but it's not
And then
ours.
if we get a grant, that's counted.
Offset
Yeah,
the
well,
whole
that
thing.
would be different, but still. I don't
But
know.
I'll ask him,
Yeah.
I'll probably wait until he's actually here,
Yeah, during the
Rather
audit,
than-
we should
yeah,
get all these things
yeah.
out during the audit.
So, can I go back to the roads? Because I just have a text, I have a text from Chris.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Good evening, I don't even know what it says. Good evening, Rhea, I have the paving overlay, the paving statement of work. Just need to pick the pre-bid and bid opening dates so I can add them to my sheet. So he's giving me some prospective dates. So this is for the paving overlay. So I need to ask him about the 15 stormwater management.
Yeah,
I've stressed to him before that the board needs to approve this. He can't just have various contractors or, because that's how he talked. He'd have a contractor come in and, do a couple this week and maybe next week and stage and, but I've said to him before that you guys need to see it and approve it.
mhm.
So I'll ask him about that. It's not me, it's not my kids. It's about trivia.
Oh,
No.
Anyway,
Okay. Anything else on that?
that's it,
Okay.
sorry.
Then, fine. Environment?
yeah, went around and took photos in the various areas we have had Friday Mighty's treatment in the past. And the lake terrace is still something that needs to be treated again. I found, the causeway is pretty good shape, but I found one stand that if Mark's gonna come down anyhow, he'll look at these other places. There's a stand there and then maybe a reed here and there, but it's pretty clean
At Lake
otherwise.
Terrace, or-
Lake Terrace
Oh.
Lake Terrace
Oh,
has
okay.
some treatment. I'm saying the causeway.
Oh, the causeway.
There's one kind of thick stand, but it's all together and it's right on the water. But there's an occasional reed that's sticking up. And then I went over to the beach, and that has a small patch along the, not close to the water, but back in from the water, but there's a big bunch of grasses that are growing now that might be native grasses. And I took a lot of pictures, so I'm gonna ask Mark if that is it. That's good, that's really good if that's the case. And the fourth thing, the footbridge, obviously, most of that's been gone, although right across the footbridge going toward Iris Lane, I found 3 6-foot stalks of Phragmites, so.
So you'll have him do
So
those?
he'll just do that, so I'm gonna send this off to him and see what he has to say.
Okay.
And I'm curious, I'm hoping that's native grasses that have come back in the beach, that would be really good news.
Yeah.
So you'll send all the pictures
Yep.
to
Yeah,
him?
and I'll send them to, and I'll copy you all.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Okay. Maggie, any update on safety or emergency room or any of the rest of that?
Not yet, my real estate agent is almost at a standstill, so I now have some free time to get everybody together and meet and look at these packs, the to-go packs.
Okay.
And the safety is, everything working out with Joe,
Yeah, so
changing
far.
the cameras and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
Joe Bateman is our
Oh.
handyman, part-time, or
Okay,
does our mowing and fixing and all that stuff.
is that the parent or the son?
That's the parent,
The father?
the father.
Father,
Okay, his
yeah.
son.
His son helps
Yeah,
sometimes.
He does.
okay, okay.
And he's,
And
and it's
Pam
Joe
helps
Junior that
sometimes.
does,
Yeah,
that
the
gets them on
the
the
whole
ground.
family is
That
so
family is there.
Yeah. What's his last name?
Bateman.
I have a rental property that has a need for a small engine repair on a lawnmower. Is that something he'd do?
I don't know. If it's in, I don't know, I've never
There
heard you talk
used to
about
be a
that.
guy here in Trump
He
Point
passed
that
away.
did small
He
ones.
passed
Yeah,
away.
he
He passed
passed
away.
away.
He's really old.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, it's just there's two or three things that could be wrong with this lawnmower, but it's good, it's a good lawnmower, but I just need somebody to look at it.
Well, we have Smith's Repair, I don't know, they're
Smith's repair?
Smith's Repair, they're in St. Mary's, but they come over with a trailer and pick up our zero turn. I mean, I don't know if they have a lawnmower, I guess you could pick that up and put it in a truck and carry it over to them.
Just a push mower. or something.
Yeah, I could send you their name.
Yeah, there's,
Yeah, income, that'd be good.
True Value does some
Oh,
motor
that's right.
repair.
I'll do that.
You might check them, there's a place over in, on Dares Beach Road? Or no, it's on Plum Point Road, I think. There's a engine repair place over there, a big one, that does all kinds of mowers and
Yeah,
stuff,
no,
but you have to get it over there.
Yeah, I'm just looking for somebody who's not gonna charge me $40 an hour to fix something that's, you know.
It's worth $4.
Yeah,
Exactly.
okay. Anything else on safety though? Okay, we'll talk about it in a minute, because I got something else to come up. But, welcoming committee,
Distributed 3 buckets in the last week. And I still have 4 on hand, and there are supplies on hand for, none of my welcome people are here, to put together some more buckets. I think we probably have enough stuff to do 5 or 6. So, and that's it. I think it's slow, maybe from what you're saying there, it's
It's
slow.
almost at a standstill, yeah.
Well, I can't say I'm happy with that. That's kept me busy too.
yeah.
Well, it's looked for a while, and, yeah, things were gangbusters in here.
It was a feeding frenzy. It's like, I was up, 10, 11, 12 o'clock night work contracts on a Sunday night. Yeah, so, but thank goodness they're taking a breath.
Yeah.
It's just good and bad, but.
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right, planning, beach erosion. So, still haven't heard from the state on the grant, I gotta call them. Made a note to myself here, I gotta call them and see if they know anything yet. I'm sure that I'll get plenty of excuses. But I have been in contact with Coastline Design, and they have been in contact with the Corps of Engineers, and it's not pretty.
Oh, no.
Things seem to be going pretty well with the MDE people, and, they were kind of thinking, oh, it looks like a decent project and all that stuff. Now, the Corps sent in their requests for information, and it's just ridiculous. So, he's starting to work that with them. The scariest one, I think, is they suggested that since this was going out into the common waterway, that maybe we need to take this to the whole community. And I thought, we may be able to say we've already done that.
Well, we have.
Well, I know, but it just depends on how drawn out this whole thing gets with them, how formal it is. Is this something that has to go out?
For a vote, or just
I don't know,
informational?
I don't know. This was more like
discussed this with the whole, somebody should tell them, we've discussed this with the whole community, at least at 3 general
Well,
membership meetings. if
He,
not
I'm gonna
more.
wait for him, I'm gonna wait for him to go back to him with the information that we have, and then see what their response is, and then, you know, we'll go from there. But, you know, there's other things too, like, well, they wanted to know how far out in the channel and all that, but, well, okay, it's not a navigable channel,
It's not a
it's
channel.
like 3 foot deep, okay, so it's,
Yeah.
Well, hey, there's a lot of kayak traffic.
well, yeah, but anyway, so those are the kind of things we're dealing with now, that's kind of slowed it a little bit. I was thinking, I was getting optimistic with the MDE, a young lady that was down here and talked to us, and she seemed to be favorably disposed, but I guess too much of a rookie to know what traps we might be falling into. So we'll just keep working with Scott at First Line Sign and see where that ends up. I hope we don't have to go through some of this stuff.
So we
That
still,
we can use common sense and
Yeah,
tell them that we,
we've done this several times.
Well, the newsletter has had information, and all the drawings are.
but if they're saying, no, you have to go to the all county residents and all this and all that, you know, that kind of crap, you know, that's,
Oh, and that's a broad definition of community.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I know.
I mean, what about the club though? Have we
Hmm?
had a formal concurrence from the club, the Drum Point Club? Because it's,
Well, we've sent, well, that's another thing. We'd sent letters to him, to that club and to Brooke Ettinger.
I mean, I know they both know about it.
Well, they know, but they had, you know, we had to send them a formal letter. Apparently, a couple of addresses were wrong, and I don't know if the Drum Point Club ever got it, so we're sending it again.
I sent Scott.
Yeah, we sent them
The right information.
the right mailing addresses. I think what had happened was between him and MDE, they were looking at like the SDAT database and maps, and they were looking at physical addresses, not mailing addresses.
Oh,
Well, you know, down here that doesn't work, so. So they're still pursuing that.
so we're still, I'm assuming nothing on the grant yet, not really
No,
or anything.
haven't heard anything else, so I'll get a,
by the way, not really, it's just an interesting factoid. Megan and Bruce Annapolis got a grant, you know, they had that lot, their lot is really high up, and that's when we go down. But they've been having some erosion on the slope side, and they got a grant,
Did they?
personal grant for their property, to do something.
we need
I don't know
to,
what that means exactly, but
well, maybe he could be a committee member or not.
we tried to graft him.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah.
But he didn't, but he didn't want to, he wasn't
It was
interested.
less than enthusiastic.
Because he said, especially since it was volunteer, he wouldn't get paid.
Right. But he knows how to get grant money.
Yeah, well, that's true, well, we can talk to him.
Okay, I don't think there's any unfinished business, right? So we have did everybody get a copy of the quitclaim request?
So it's the same basic quick claim that we always do.
I didn't see any issues with it.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Okay.
It's Lake Vista and
If people want to talk about it, or
there a
Any reason.
motion to approve it?
make a motion to approve it.
Also,
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And so-
I mean, you know, if we turned it down, we'd have a hell of a time explaining why that one. and
Right,
Yeah.
yes, exactly right.
You know,
And if you would sign here, then I'll do it after tomorrow. And I'll do the scan.
Yeah, but it is interesting, what are they planning to do? Some sort of little floating dock there on the lake?
I don't know.
Yeah,
A dock of some
I
I don't remember exactly, frankly, what he told me. I apologize.
looked at it and sort of said, why? But that's all right.
Well, they put some kind of a block out there,
I guess.
could be either floating or fixed, I guess.
Well, and this is a developer that owns this, so it might be that he just wants to add it as part of, you know, a selling point.
Mhm.
But-
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay.
But I'm saying, you know, it's basically non-tidal on that lake, so you don't really need a floating dock.
Yeah, you're right.
That's the only reason to have a
Is that the
floating
reason
dock.
for a floating
Yeah.
dock?
Mm.
Title?
I didn't know that.
Okay, approve that. Okay, we have to reconfirm our committee membership. And we also need to figure out what we're gonna do about our safety committee.
Well, I was like the safety committee, oh.
Yeah, well, it isn't, I had to look to see why. Last year, it was a transition time with Peter. And we were gonna get in touch with members of the committee, and then people went on vacation, and I didn't think to remind you, which I should have. So we don't really know, yeah. I mean, I know I've sent you, and you probably have a list and so on, but for these purposes, I don't have.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that we met, the only one that I didn't get in touch with is the girl that is with the fire,
Yes.
center.
Katie Haslett.
Yes. I did it by email, so she's interested.
Right, I remember you saying.
So, you know, as far as the committee is concerned, there's not an issue. I just need to get, you know, a show of hands who's gonna participate, which I will do that.
So can I put it, and I won't forget this time, put it on the agenda for August to affirm that committee? And affirm the others tonight, I mean, after you.
Yeah. But, I mean, as far as safety though, I think even tonight we can say that Maggie is the
Sure.
chair,
Yeah.
right? And then, and membership is TBR.
Okay.
Um, All right, does anybody not want to be on committees that they're currently listed on? Environment, we've got Bonnie, Jenny, and Asha. Finance, Jack, me, Bonnie, Jenna, and Mike Chaconis. And you don't have to be on a board to be on a committee, so Jenna can continue to do that. She didn't, I think when we mentioned it last time, we were talking to her, she didn't deny,
Right, yeah.
said she'd still be on it.
Still do that, yeah.
Okay. Planning committee, me, Tony, and Jenny. Jenny, as opposed to Jenna. Okay. Roads, Sal, Chris, ex officio, Jack, me, and Asha. And welcoming, Cindy Andre is the chair. Asha, Jenna, Jenny, and Rhea, ex officio.
And maybe Susan would want.
Susan,
Yeah, Susan,
or any of these, you can be on more than one.
you can be on any or all.
Jump right in, jump right in.
Anything you're interested
A glutton
in?
for punishment.
Actually, I certainly am a good gopher and don't mind being on the welcoming if you need more people.
Okay.
And I think the other one that actually appeals to me more than anything is the planning.
Okay.
I like looking ahead.
Good.
But, Maggie, if you need help on safety and you don't get enough draftees, I'll help you on safety.
Oh, okay, that's great. At this point, you know, I think I have 3 or 4, but yeah, let me get it all together and I'll keep that in mind. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, you gotta fill in the gaps.
So, safety,
Safety,
Maggie,
yeah,
membership to be determined.
yeah.
So in the planning committee, if y'all need help, I mean, if there's anything I can do, I'm going to jump in there.
Okay.
For free.
Well, we haven't, actually, we probably ought to think about how to become more of a planning committee and not a reacting committee.
Well,
on
yeah,
the
it's
beach.
been, it's all the beach.
But it's been just, that's about the only thing we've kind of put in there in terms of long-term projects, you know, for
Well,
planning.
There was that one gentleman at the meeting that suggested other projects, and he was thinking of playgrounds, which we can't do, we've decided we can't do, but maybe there's some other things that the planning committee could plan.
Yeah,
I think in response to what he said, what I was hoping was that he would make some more suggestions.
Yes,
You know, rather than just
right, and just put it out
put
there.
it out there, yeah.
But we can be thinking too.
We might invite him.
So that leads me to my next, are y'all talking about John? Is that what you're talking about, the discussion at the meeting on
I don't know
Saturday?
what his name
I don't
was.
know.
It's my husband.
Oh, that was your
Oh,
husband?
okay.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Well, then,
oh, good thing we didn't badmouth him.
Well, you were on video.
but there was another guy
Do you
who
have some
was,
ideas that he?
He
Throwing out a bunch
does,
of-
yeah, he does, but he, and maybe it was not the right time to bring it up. He just kind of felt like, perhaps you all weren't at that particular moment interested in planning anything for the community.
oh, no.
But,
And anytime,
Yeah.
well, that's a misconception. Anytime anybody has anything to suggest,
Yeah.
please bring it forward. I mean, you know, if he has ideas, great. You know, the truth is, sometimes we spent like, how many years did we spend on the playground to figure out we can't do it?
Right.
Not because it wasn't a good idea.
Not,
Right,
yeah,
right,
great
right,
idea,
right.
it just can't be
Right.
It
done.
couldn't have, I mean, it couldn't have subjected the community to.
Right.
You know, between insurance and everything.
One thing that John did mention to me a while ago, and I never pursued it,
yeah, because
was
we,
the board.
I know what you're gonna say, because we
The
were
bike
like,
path.
yeah, it was, well, the bike and the walking trail.
Right.
So that, you know, that's one thing that we, you know, he's interested in trying to pursue, whether it'll work out or not.
I think,
Um, Yeah, it's more of a, it's biking and walking, not for, you know, RVs or, you know, four-wheelers, whatever, from point A to point B, to keep people off of the street, especially around that curve up
I
there.
think that's what he was primarily talking
Yeah.
about.
Oh, you're ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very dangerous.
Yeah, Kathy and I walk every morning, and it's like,
Very
you know,
dangerous.
we've almost lost our lives a couple of
Yeah,
times.
Yeah, and there are a lot, if you look up on the map, at the curve on Beretta, all those orange stickers and then the blue, we own the blue, the orange ones are land trust. So I don't know if land trust properties are restricted from even something like that, I have no idea. Ours are in
Yeah.
green space, so I don't think that would prohibit us from doing
Yeah.
anything.
So, you know, we would just like to be able to see what we can do in the community to improve the property, not necessarily property values, but maybe the environment and, the community as a whole.
An amenity, you're saying.
Right, exactly.
Right, I think that's a good idea. Plus, we have a right of way right through there, where we did never put a road
Right,
line,
yes.
didn't ever put a road.
What,
You see that little squiggly line in?
that,
That's our road right of way. So,
oh, okay.
and it would connect, I think, to another road right of way, right out to that, right.
Huh.
So that could actually, you know, without having to worry about whether we can do something with green space properties.
Mhm.
But John has several ideas. He's always thinking about
You
things
should-
like that.
You
And
should
so-
write them down and send them in.
Yes.
Well, I was, you know, I said, why don't you come tonight?
Good.
Yeah, he could-
Yeah.
he could-
Yeah, come to a meeting.
Yeah, and that's what I said, why don't you come tonight? And, but he did this, when we lived back in Virginia, and the community that he lived in was basically like this. And, with his help and suggestions, it became a number 1, number 2 spot for people to come to in that area. So he brought it to that point. And he would just like to be able to see some amenities here to improve it.
Any good ideas are more than welcome, more than welcome.
All right. Excellent.
Yeah, so, maybe, try to, should plant the seed that next meeting, maybe you can come and we can talk about some things and.
When is that, when is the next
Well,
meeting?
that's cool.
'Cause
Let's see, I guess we're done.
That's the next item.
Well, we need to formally
Yeah.
reconfirm the
Oh,
committee.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've added a couple, we've added Susan and a couple, we've got 3, and nobody else vehemently objected to being on the ones we're on. So do we have a motion to accept the membership as proposed?
Make a motion to accept the membership as proposed.
Okay, seconds?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All opposed?
Well, they're not here.
Yeah, exactly right. That's what they have.
Okay, got that done.
What else do we need to sneak in?
All right, let's see. We are looking at August, right? Okay. I have lots of problems starting in August. Not problems, but
Conflict.
conflict.
Yeah, so the 6th through the 13th, I'm finally going to get to see this new grandbaby.
Oh, I thought that Colorado, that's in Colorado.
thought you were out there when the baby was born.
No,
Okay.
no, I was out there for baby shower, but then she went in that week after that.
Right, okay.
Okay, well, I am gone the first through the, okay. Yeah, I won't be back until the 18th,
Yeah, where you going?
so,
It's never business.
well, we're
Someplace
going
fun? Someplace fun?
Always.
to Ireland and
Oh,
Iceland.
nice.
Um,
Nobody ever takes me up in my carrying their luggage, so I won't bother them.
So, and I think, I hate to wait, until the 23rd or whatever. So, are you amenable to running the meeting?
I honestly cannot commit because Martha said she's coming back sometimes at the end of July or the beginning of August.
Okay.
So I do not know what day she's coming back at this point.
If there are a lot of conflicts, could you push it back to the 28th of July?
Well,
Oh, you mean the 26th?
I'm sorry,
Because it's usually a Tuesday, the 26th?
Yeah. is that the 26th? Yeah,
the
26th.
26th, it doesn't have to be Tuesday.
Okay, that's
Because
good.
I've got,
We've done
Yeah, we've
Thursday
done it
before.
yeah.
because I've got my second cataract that day.
Ah,
And I'll be homebound for a day. Let's see.
The 28th.
um,
I have a conflict on the 28th of July.
You're vital, so.
Oh, really?
It's
It's recorded, I can do it.
There you are.
And go back a day to the 27th or?
What about, I've got conflicts. What about the 25th, be a Monday? Will it,
I can do that. Yeah, I can do that.
I can do it.
In theory.
In theory, we can do it. But if you can, Mike can do it, then he,
Yeah, but
Yeah,
if
you
you
would have
can
to
do it,
decide.
then if you can do the 25th, I don't know if I can or not.
but at least.
Yeah, but Mike will be here.
Yeah, right.
okay, so we'll do the 25th.
Okay.
Is there anything that says we can't have 2 meetings in 1 month?
I don't think so. We used to have 2 meetings every 2 weeks.
Oh, really? Oh, my gosh.
Geez,
Yes.
And you couldn't get people to volunteer to be on the board.
carries
6:30
the thought.
is the normal time.
So definitely the 25th, Monday the 25th,
Okay.
right?
All right, well, we'll see.
Before we adjourn, I do have a question. Is there anything in the comments that tells us how many vehicles can be parked on the property?
Not in the covenants, no. The county allows 1 inoperable, and the county does not address unlicensed, unregistered.
I think that's amazing. I mean, I read that.
Again, good luck getting them to enforce anything.
Yeah.
No, we can't, there's nothing we can do.
There was a house down on, where is it? Oh, it's on, well, it's not on, well, it's not even on our property. I guess it's the one that's on Rosby Hall. It is on Rosby Hall, so. it's like you put it
Well, I mean, we, go down Chestnut, we've got one that's just
Yeah.
horrible.
And I've reported it half dozen times.
I can't imagine they could even pass any kind of a health
Is it the one,
inspection, but
is that the one with the dogs in the house and the broken blinds?
I don't know, I mean, they've got boats and cars and junk.
One thing that the zoning enforcement officer, Chris Breedlove, said was they can't locate the actual owner of the house. And it has to be the owner apparently. So I don't know if it's a rental property or if the man just doesn't come into the door.
But they pay their fee?
I believe they do. I'd have to double check it. They've not been in that house that long. because the first time I reported them, Chris sent an inspector out, and he was told, well, you know, we just moved in a few weeks ago, months ago, whatever, and we're in the process of getting things settled, and give us some time, we're gonna take care of it.
Yeah, right.
Went downhill from there.
Oh, there is something else on it, right, down here, the tree that the boy hit,
Oh, I didn't know, yeah, okay.
where you said he meant to do that. There's two big branches, and I know it's not our property, but the county probably needs to come and look at it, because there's two huge branches on that cedar that are dying, and they're partially broken off from the tree. If somebody walking close, or they happen to go put some kind of little thing under that tree, memorial of that boy, that branch could fall off and hit him in the head. It's a pretty big branch.
Is that Loretta at Chestnut? Where did that happen?
Yeah, it's the one where the guy drove his car.
I know, but I don't
into
know where
but
the
I don't-
street is.
Is it Chestnut?
Is it, wasn't it a Chestnut?
Maybe it is
I think so.
Chestnut. Yeah, I think it is.
And just as an aside also, I don't know, maybe it's gone now, but there had been a dishwasher there.
Yeah.
Speaking of the county, and I called and asked them to come pick it up, so that might take a while.
Well, we still don't have any news on the house over here with the guy, do we?
No,
Huh. Wow.
he passed away. He hadn't owned it that long.
I
He's
know,
doing
he hasn't.
landscaping and so.
Just probably 6 or 8 months.
Which-
Well, I
which one?
fix the
At the
yard.
corner of Chestnut and Beretta on this side of Chestnut. ours.
Oh,
Yeah, 2 houses down.
Yeah.
On the
It's just
corner.
sitting there empty.
It's been sitting there empty for a good 4 months. The grass kept growing, and every day
I
Kathy
noticed the
and
grass looked like it maybe had been cut.
a neighbor must have cut it. Somebody
That's
must
what
have
I would
cut
do,
it.
because I had a neighbor contact me, and I said, well, this is what
And is that how
happened.
you found out that he was,
No, I knew that he was deceased, the owner.
oh,
But we don't go on the property and cut grass,
Oh,
you know.
No.
And I guess if it were me, I can't imagine anybody would complain if
Yeah,
they cut the grass.
You
I
know,
don't-
It's
I don't
such a
think I
nice
said
if you're,
that.
if you're living next to
Yeah.
it or
Right.
Yeah.
across from it.
I did have another woman, this one, not in a minute, so. Anyway, she wanted to pull railroad ties across the street from her house, you know, into a vacant lot across the street. And because they're old and decrepit and so on, and those lots are owned by the land trust. And I said, well, you know, I don't imagine anybody would notice, but technically you really shouldn't do it. You'd be trespassing.
Yeah, you're dumping on somebody else's
Well, do you
property.
think it's okay if I do that? And I said, well, I'm not gonna tell you yes or no, but no, technically you shouldn't, because it would be illegal. So, I don't know what she's gonna do.
and you don't know what her purpose was for that?
Oh, she just wanted to get rid of them.
Yeah.
See, I don't know what she's
Oh,
wanting to do.
she was dumping.
She
Yeah,
was-
she
she
was
was-
dumping
yeah,
on
yeah,
private
Right.
And they're railroad ties, and those are treated.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
So
it's
even
not
more
that-
so,
And then they decay and it goes into the
Yeah,
ground.
yeah.
Call Martinez, he can come pick them up and put them down on the surf lot.
There you go.
Speaking of, that one guy who was talking a lot at the meeting, you mentioned a sign that was down up there.
yeah, I gave that to Joe.
You gave that to Joe?
I think I might have to do a misutility on it, but I said unless you can find the exact hole, because the sign is gone now. If you can find the exact hole, then you can put it back up, but if not, then I'll do a misutility.
Yeah, if they use one of those, you know, the sleeves like they've been using
Right,
lately, then
yeah.
you could slip it back in there.
Well, exactly, that
I
might
think
be,
find it, but,
as a matter of fact, we have extra sleeves, and that's the reason, because
Right.
sometimes when the sign needs to be replaced, they just have to put it back in. And speaking of shed, Pam Bateman spent 4 or 5 hours organizing and cleaning that shed, you should take a look at it.
Wow,
Yeah,
very nice.
and she's done an inventory of the signs.
Oh, wow.
She used to work for Parks and Rec, so
Oh,
she has an idea of
yeah,
what needs to be done. So I thought that was really good. I paid Joe the hours, they both did it.
it's still, the fact that she did a great job.
Yep, and it needed to be done.
Well, you all know, we still have dogs running loose. Twice this week, we picked up dog poop in our yard, all the way almost at the front door.
I don't know what to tell people about that, animal control, call animal
Oh, yeah.
control.
but you gotta catch
Do you
the,
know who they belong to, the girl?
Catch 'em in the act.
Well, I've seen a guy that walks or sometimes cycles with 2 dogs that are not on a leash. And I said something to him one time, I said, you know, your dogs are supposed to be on a leash. Well, he blew me off. And at that point, one of the dogs was going all the way from him across the road up into Denny Smith's yard. And he called him and the dog came back, but neither one of them were on leashes. So, yeah. We don't think